You know, you got nice color skin. What color would you say that is?
My color.
The Osage. They have the worst land possible. But they outsmarted everybody. The land had oil on it. Black gold. Money flows freely here now.
I do love that money, sir.
This wealth should come to us. Their time is over. It's just going to be another tragedy.
When this money started coming, we should have known it came with something else. They're like buzzards circling our people. We're still warriors.
I ought to kill these white men who killed my family. I need you here.
I am right here.
You've got to take back control of your home. I was sent down from Washington, D.C. to see about these murders.
See, what about him?
See who's doing it. Expecting a miracle to make all this go away. You know they don't happen anymore.
Hello and welcome to the Film Club, and this is a surprise for you lovely listeners, a surprise and a treat as I chat Martin Scorcese's latest movie Killers of the Flower Moon, starring DiCaprio, De Niro and Lily Gladstone, but more importantly I speak with Chief Standing Bear. Now for those of you not aware, Scorcese's latest is set in the Osage Nation in Oklahoma during the 1920s. The Chief is the present day leader of the Osage and he kindly granted me some time to discuss the movie and his people. Before that, as usual, I chat with Tim about the film, and then it's over to Chief Standing Bear. There's plenty more great history to come on the pod, including the history of running, an interview with General David Petraeus, and plenty more. But until then, let's get cracking talking Killers of the Flower Moon. Tim Hewitt, welcome back to the Film Club for today's Killers of the Flower Moon. Welcome, Tim.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
So, listeners, if they're not sure what Killers of the Flower Moon is, because it's only just come out, and Tim and I have created such a following on this podcast that now we've got film companies begging for us to appear at their early screenings. And Killers of the Flower Moon is one that we did attend just over a week ago. And it is the latest Martin Scorsese movie. It is based on a series of murders that took place in Oklahoma in the 1920s. It stars, well, two longtime favorites of Scorsese, Leonardo Di Caprio and Robert De Niro. And it is quite a film. It's also stars, I would say, those are the two longtime stars. I really want to give a shout out to Lily Gladstone, who is the, I'd say, third star of the film. She plays the wife of Leonardo DiCaprio. Robert De Niro plays the uncle of Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, we're not going to give any spoilers, okay? So don't worry. We're only going to, similar to the way we did Oppenheimer early on, we are only going to talk a little bit about the film. But Tim, first reactions, we've only seen it once. Unlike most of on the Film Club, we see like millions of these films, or rather we see them millions of times.
Well, I mean, it a difficult one to talk about, I suppose, in depth, which, I mean, we're not going to talk about it in depth.
No. And just before just for the listeners' sake, we're going to do a short chat about the film, and then I'm going to hand us over to me talking with Chief Standing Bear, who is the leader of the chief of the Osage Nation, the Native American tribe that is so prominent. Well, it's the main, it's the tribe in the film. So that's why this podcast is a chat with Tim and then a chat with Chief Standing Bear.
And he was the consultant on the film, I believe, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
I mean, talking about it in depth, but the thing is, we saw it just over a week ago. It is a pretty epic film with so much in it. I mean, I'll start it by saying Martin Scorcese in his 80s doesn't seem in any way, shape or form as if he's going to wane or run out of steam. He's making films as if he was still in his 20s or 30s, I think. You look at the energy he puts into something like The Wolf of Wall Street that could have been made, looked like it had been made by someone in their 30s, but actually he was in his 70s. The Irishman, pretty remarkable. I did think it was a pretty remarkable film. At 3 hours and 26 minutes, Ollie and I did discuss briefly afterwards that, yes, he could probably have trimmed bits here and there. I think that was the middle section leading into the third act. They could have trimmed down. But the whole point of it, really, I felt towards the end, having been in that screening room for 3 hours and 20 minutes, the climax of the film, which I won't give anything away, but I felt we needed to have a film that length you sort of felt like now you knew the history of these characters because you'd spent so much time with them that it all paid off. Right. DiCaprio is excellent. It was so nice to see him playing quite a weak character.
Yeah, and this isn't a traditional role for him at all.
No.
Do you think his people were telling him, Leonardo, I'm not sure
I don't know.
This.
It's a difficult one because his physical appearance is very different. He's a bit of a loser in it. I think it was probably, I don't know what his managers would have said, but you can see why he was attracted to this role. Robert De Niro is so good. He is a conniving, charming, evil bastard, which it's a kind of a nice, I want to say a change because, we see him in such tough roles, but there are moments where he's quite vulnerable and I don't want to say weak, but when he kicks up a fuss because somebody has done something slightly incorrectly after he has given them explicit orders of how to do something nasty in inverted commas, he sort of kicks up a bit of a strop fuss, and it's really nice to see this slightly different angle coming from Martin Scorsese, who's directed him 10 times now, I think, or
and
maybe
number
more.
6 for DiCaprio, isn't it?
Is it 6 or is it 7? Oh, quick, let's go. Gangs of New York, Shutter Island, The Aviator, The Departed, Wolf of Wall Street. Oh yeah, I think it is 6 then. So, and it's lovely to see DiCaprio and De Niro back together after so long. They did This Boy's Life a long time ago, which DiCaprio is one of his first roles, and it was De Niro who told Martin Scorsese, "Look, I'm working with this kid, and he is amazing. You've got to work with him." A nice little full circle.
Interesting. They haven't worked before, actually. Yeah. Could you argue DiCaprio is the sort of De Niro of the 2000s?
Well, yeah, I suppose he is, really. De Niro's, I don't know if you've ever seen that it's on, I think it's available on YouTube. It's an extended casino commercial directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, DiCaprio, and Brad Pitt. And it's called The Audition. And it's basically DiCaprio and De Niro competing for the same role in a Martin Scorsese film. And they have a bit of a face-off and an argument, and it's really funny. It's very funny.
And you can get that on YouTube, so I'll dig that out.
Yeah, I think it's it basically kind of parodies the current relationship that Scorsese's having with DiCaprio and kind of having left behind Robert De Niro. Now, you watch Killers of the Flower Moon, and nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, this is an amazing collaboration. Highly shameful behavior from the whites.
I felt like it was a horror film.
Yeah, interesting. You say that. I think the closest Scorsese's ever got to a horror film was probably Shutter Island with DiCaprio and Mark Ruffalo and Max von Sydow. But this is sort of treading on that kind of those tropes and moments. It's not it's a shame that we always think Martin Scorsese, violence, gangsters. Of course, he's excelled in that type of film and that genre. And there are the odd other film, not necessarily gangster films, where there has been, a certain amount of violence. But this is kind of creeps up on you and then punches you in the stomach, just with a very simple visual. I don't know if you remember. I'm not going to give anything away, but there is a dead body that seems just quite at peace, and then somebody lifts them up, and there is a very gruesome image. There's no warning. It's like a sudden shock tactic that, is in keeping with the theme of the film. He's always exploring new territories, Martin Scorsese, I think. This is his kind of first, quote, Western. He's never made a film set in this era that or anything kind of in the West, the old West, I suppose, if you want to describe it. It's not cowboys, but
no, neo-West.
De Niro is a cattle baron.
I thought you meant De Niro owned a ranch and a bit like...
No, sorry. His character
Ford.
in the film. Yeah, but it's...
Because the last sort of like neo-Western that came out was Power of the Dog, I think it was. Which
yes.
I thought was hugely overrated. And
so did I.
To be quite frank, found it very boring.
Mm-hmm.
This is not that.
No. This is head and shoulders.
Yeah, million
above.
times better.
Funnily enough, both starring Jesse Plemons. Jesse Plemons always performs solid. He's always great.
I think he was the only good thing about Power of the Dog.
Yeah, I agree. We're on the same. Kirsten Dunst is always quite good. I think she was good, but I did find it forced. The villainy was very forced. I felt the one particular lead character. But
going back to Killers of the Flower Moon. I also found, because I came into it not really knowing anything about the story, it was all a bit rushed because, we have to field a lot of these questions for people begging for us to go to these screening rooms. And Scorsese was badgering me for weeks.
Yeah.
But so I did give in, but I didn't really do much background reading. And I'll put a link in because there is a book that this is based on. It was a bestseller. And not knowing, I think, made the experience even more powerful, actually. I guess made me feel like it was a horror film because...
Yeah, well, I didn't know the approach that Scorsese was going to take with the particular subject matter. I had read, essentially, I knew something about the fact that there was involved the Osage people, and DiCaprio and De Niro were in it doing something. I had no idea that it was going to be a kind of whodunit, but as Scorsese put it recently, he said the funny thing is it's not so much as a whodunit, it's a who didn't do it. For those of the listeners who maybe haven't read anything about it and are thinking, well, what are you talking about? It essentially, can we say essentially what the gist is?
Well, I think I mentioned at the start that this is based on events during the 1920s where there were a series of killings in a part of Oklahoma that was owned by the Osage Nation, and on that land was oil, and that meant that the Osage Nation essentially were hugely wealthy because they're sitting on black gold, and that therefore attracts characters who have malevolent intentions. I don't really want to go into any more detail than
that. Fine. So
that's in the summary of the film, and if you watch the trailer, I have put the trailer in at the beginning, so that kind of gives you a rough idea.
Yeah, and nasty stuff does start to happen.
Tim, what about Oscars? Are we thinking liberal?
Well, I was having a brief discussion with a friend of mine. Oscar, it was always the first reaction was Oscars question mark. Now,
even though we think they're a bit of a joke nowadays, don't we?
We do think they're a bit of a joke, but we do sometimes hope that they get it right on occasion when something comes out that really stamps its mark. I mean, there have been times, years in the past where the Oscars have happened, and you're like, well, with the choice. It's difficult to say because anyone could get it. Did they deserve it? I don't know. What's flavor of the month? Blah, blah, blah. I'm still not entirely sure that The Shape of Water should have won as much as it won the year it came out. But that's an aside. What's going to be intriguing is I think Oppenheimer is in with a shout for the big ones. Actor, for sure. Screenplay. Direction, I would probably put down, and even film. The only issue is I think Oppenheimer's biggest competition is now going to be this.
Yeah.
They're both pretty epic. They're both so important in their subject matters. I don't know. It's a tricky one. DiCaprio is certainly worthy of a nomination. De Niro is definitely worthy of a nomination. Lily is, I would probably say, supporting actress. I don't know if you could class her as the lead actress. I don't think there is a lead actress actually in Killers.
So Oppenheimer cost 100 million, I think. Killers of the Flower Moon cost 200 million. I guess that's the
design. Well, the design would probably.
Why is that?
I don't know.
They're only, in reality, they're only film. The setting is only 20 years apart, if that. In some scenes.
Well, I would assume that DiCaprio's fee was way higher than Cillian Murphy's.
Got it.
Which is sacrilegious, of course, because Cillian Murphy was in almost every frame. He holds the film. It's basically his. But I don't know.
How much are DiCaprio type actors getting?
I think they're around the 25 million mark. So he's a quarter of the an eighth of the budget.
And De Niro, similar fee?
Probably similar. So, you forget, you look at the design and everything, and actually the design of the film is the cheapest part compared to the actors' fees.
Yes. I wanted to mention Lily, Tim.
No, she's astonishingly good in this.
So she's not well known at all. Were you aware of her before this?
No. Completely new discovery, which I think is amazing. She fits seamlessly into it. I mean, she really was excellent. Kind of not showy at all in her performance. Very subtle, in fact. Lovely throwaway lines in her own language, which is one thing I also wanted to mention. The beautiful Osage language that they use quite prominently in the film.
I did say a few words of Osage with Chief Standing Bear. He taught me a couple of words. That's very, very cool. As you know, I'm a huge Dances with Wolves fan, so the Native American culture of all the tribes, I mean, they are so stunning. True conservationists, real people of the land. Well, that's why it's such an important film, actually, similar to Oppenheimer.
Yes, absolutely.
Tim, we're probably going to have to wrap up, I think, because we've done about 20 minutes on this.
Oh, we have? Wow, that went quickly.
I know. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, just and excellent screenplay by Eric Roth and Martin Scorcese co-wrote it. Costume design, everything in the film is impeccably done. Supporting actors and supporting parts, really, really great. That's about it.
Based on a very good, but as I mentioned at the start, best-selling history book by David Gran. Scorsese's picked up his other book, which is seamlessly leads us on to our next film club next week, which is The Bounty, the second book by David Gran, or the next book by David Gran that only came out earlier on this year and has been picked up by Scorsese and I think it's in I don't know if he's filming it at the moment. You're good at that sort of stuff.
I don't know. I think it's in pre-production. The Wager and with DiCaprio.
Yes. So that'll be very interesting. But Tim, thank you. That leads our listeners to, if you can spare 3.5, probably plus all the adverts nowadays, you're talking 3 hours, 40 minutes.
Yeah. But it's worth it. It's worth to see on the big screen, I think, as well.
Yeah. Maybe get there 20 minutes late, miss all the adverts.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
They're just the same things over and over.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks, Tim. I'll hand you over to.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be talking Bounty next week. And I'm going to hand me over to me and Chief Standing Bear.
Hello, Oliver.
Hello, Chief Standing Bear. How are you?
Good, thank you.
And how are you enjoying London?
Well, I came in yesterday, late afternoon, and took advantage of the evening to sleep. But so here I am. But I on the way in, I drove by. Well, I didn't. The driver drove by Buckminster Palace.
Oh,
and
excellent.
Trafalgar Square, and I saw from a distance Big Ben. So that was fun. Tomorrow I have a little time, and I do know a couple of sites if I have time. The British Museum and the Tower of London. Both of those I've always wanted to explore a little bit. So, and you know, I'm 70 years old, so I'm not going. I was telling myself I'm not going to have the ability to walk around too much now, but when I'm older, it'll be probably less. So this is my big opportunity. So I'm going to take a look. So I don't want to cut into your time.
No, don't worry. I know. I'm glad you're taking advantage and you're going to see as much as possible. That's great. And I suppose I'm going to ask you a question that you probably answered a million times. But what did you think of the film?
I love the film. I'm impressed with the film to the point I've been calling it historic, because we, the Osage, are telling our story through the greatest talent, I believe, on Earth today in the way of film presentation, and because we saw it being made with in the sets that Jack Fisk and his team were doing, and Osages were working on that. We saw Rodrigo and his cinematographers, and two Osages I know of are working in his department, and the costumes, and then, of course, the language department. We're working with Marianne Bauer, producer, and all their folks. And the culture scenes were authentic. They had consulted, but we never thought it would be presented in context, that they would actually get it right, and they did. And to see our language, culture, and our day-to-day personalities expressed, and the actors who spent so much time with us seemed like they just became so much part of how it really is, because this movie's 100 years ago, but that's the time of my grandparents who grew up. They were their age in their 20s when all this was happening, that generation. So even though we didn't talk about these murders, not only at Grey Horse, but all around our people, we didn't talk about it a lot. But to see those people, their personality, the way they act, it's I don't know how they did it.
Lily Gladstone was just an extraordinary performance, wasn't it?
Well, she spent a lot of time with us because she developed good personal relationships with us, and just so I got to know her as a person. And although we met De Niro and Di Caprio, they didn't spend as much time with us. So we just feel like Lily is one of us, and to see how she begins the movie and ends the movie, and and drives it. It's just like we were told it was going to be. They're going to tell the story through Molly's eyes, and Lily plays Molly, and they did, and she shows us from start to end through her eyes this story, and that is incredible that somebody could do this and then be at the same scene with Leonardo Di Caprio or Robert De Niro or the lawyers and others. Very impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, because I went into this film quite cold, not really being aware of the story. I'd heard of the book, of course, but I just watched these crimes unfolding on the screen with mounting horror. I just couldn't believe that something like this could happen. And I'm so glad that a filmmaker like Scorsese has made it so that we all do know now this story. But coming from being a leader of the Osage and having this knowledge, I guess, what has it been like having this knowledge this whole time, but knowing it, not that many people know about it, and now they do?
It's been under discussion, but very private until some Osages about 20 years ago said, I'm going to start telling the story outside of our small families and community. And Charles Redcorn wrote A Pipe for February. Denny McCullough, another Osage, wrote The Deaths of Sybil Bolton. And then there were some manuscripts that others were putting together. And so we started hearing more and more about it. And then when David Grange came with Catherine Redcorn as his person, introduced him around, David did not inquire. We just got to know him. He got to know us, and then he took time and to find a way to respectfully approach those who were directly impacted, the children of those who were murdered, the grandchildren of those who were murdered. But David's book has to be read to understand this story. As one person told me this morning, they're companion pieces. And the book says, yeah, this is a true story, and I'll prove it. And they prove it through the documentation that is on file in the archives of the United States federal systems. And so he proves that, and records the Osage Agency, where the guardians that are appointed over so many Osages who are designated to have what they call restricted Indian status and numbers, how they are also victims, just not murdered, but victims to take away all their wealth, which was most of our tribe. So, yeah, it's something we know about. We didn't talk about too much, but some Osages started talking about it more, and we never thought that it would go to the point where David would write such a quality, interesting book, which led to the movie.
And whilst I was watching the film, we all have this knowledge of the way Native Americans were treated by the US government.
No, I don't think so. I think when you look at a book called 1491 or other new research and even information being revealed by the satellite views, LIGAR, what do you call that, of the Amazon or other parts of the Western Hemisphere, the numbers of people that inhabited this hemisphere before Western contact were in the tens of millions, many times over that. And so to understand that the Americas, the United States area, that there were just not a few 100,000 people living here, but there's over 20 million people living here, and the smallpox epidemics and others, and the wars and the genocide. You can say genocide and saying, if you don't believe it, I can prove it to you. Let's have a whole year to go through things because you want to see proof. So it's when you lose 9 out of 10 of your people over a 60, 70-year period, you're going to lose your belief system, your culture, your language. There'll be mergers with other tribes. So yeah, everyone knows it happened, but the scale of it is overwhelming. It's the worst, to my knowledge and reading, that's ever happened on the planet. Yeah, it's the worst.
And so then that it stands to reason then that we should be seeing more history, really, to look more into this. There's still many more stories to be told.
Well, yes, and it needs to be shown, and of course the lessons need to be learned, which is don't introduce yourselves into a community without understanding that they may not have resistance to any disease that you carry, which is something you have immunities to, which they don't. Or once you into a period of cooperation and residence, you need to understand these are their natural resources, and these may be religious sites to them, and these resources also should be shared, the benefits, financial benefits, with reason, so not to destroy the environment, but also to share with them and not take it all and take it away. And I mean, those kinds of lessons, and don't even get further into administration, where everybody, as in the movie, gets a number. And so, hi, I'm Molly Kyle, she says, Osage roll number, and I'm a restricted Osage. I mean, if you're into a world where the government is giving you a number, let's not do that anymore. I have a number. I'm number 4910 in the 1953 roll. We have now stopped that. But in that world, everyone had a number, and I ran into a gentleman he said, well, he was from Europe, his people, and at an airport on the way over here. He asked me what I was going for, and I started talking. I told him that part, and he goes, well, my grandparents in Europe, they were given numbers. And I said, well, don't do that. So when people come into other people's areas, remember you're a guest, and if you're going to become part of the community, become part of the community. Don't try to take control of everyone and just to get their wealth, their livelihood, or their lives. And that's what we see. So that goes on from what I read, and I don't travel much, but I think all this goes on today. And it's not a matter of what political system's in play. It just happens. And they're just principles of living that need to be agreed upon. One of the most powerful things the elders taught us to hand down as they passed away was a statement: be good to one another. Okay, that is strong statement, and that's that principle. There's one that I can think of. The other one they say is always put respect first. Always do that. Those are strong principles of the Osage, and those are principles I believe other people should observe as well.
And so, looking at today, how are the Osage today? We've got this new film now. There's going to be a lot of attention on the Osage, but what's the state of play for the Osage people now?
Half of our people do not even live in the state of Oklahoma. We have about 25,000 people. Of the oil interest, only about 1 in 5 of the Osage have any oil interest in what goes on. But our production of oil, we estimate about 1.5 billion barrels were removed out. We received a royalty interest for those that had headright interest. That is now down to about 10,000 barrels a day. And again, most Osage do not receive anything from that. We have small casinos. We're in a rural area. We prioritize use of those proceeds for education of our people in the modern world, in college and trade school scholarships, language revitalization, to support our cultural sites, for burial assistance, and for health programs. We are now trying to take on the challenges head on of anxiety, depression, trauma, including generational trauma, and alcoholism, diabetes, all these sugar-based diseases from improper diets. We are very proud of the way we have built up after the COVID. We had no meat in our area and very little other food. And so we have built a meat processing plant. We can process 60 to 80 head of bison or cattle a month. That's on one shift. And we have about 2,000 head of cattle and 250 head of bison that we have on land we've repurchased. It used to be ours, lost to other ranchers. We are taking what funds we can, and we're trying to learn to be self-sufficient. We have the challenges now, of course, in all of this to make them sustainable, and also the new areas such as the mental health areas and all those. They have to be tackled. We don't know what the cost of that's going to be in the long run, but also now we see a pressing need for expanded health access, quality health that is so expensive, a priority, and we need affordable housing. We just opened a casino. The day I left here is the day we opened our casino in our tribal capital. But it created new jobs. But where are they going to stay? Where are they going to live? We have to have affordable housing. So we are just now building 5G internet. People say, oh, go to home to work or to school. Well, in cities that may work, but in the rural areas when you don't have internet or have satellite low quality internet, that doesn't make sense. But we're just now building internet in our world. So that's progress. So we have a lot of work to do, and there's limited resources to do it. And the indigenous people, the tribe, Osage Nation, for example, we can work with our local governments today in getting that done because we're all affected by it. You got me going there with that question.
No, I'm fascinated actually, because I was also wondering because you're talking about all the problems, and I wondered if you're optimistic for the future. I mean, I guess we have to be, don't we? If as you in your position as chief.
And you see our 9 and 10-year-old children who have been through our schools learning, as they say, STEAM, or some called it STEM, but we had art, science, technology, math. And art, and they're learning that, but they're also learning our language. So you can see the effect of what we're trying to do when an 8 or 9-year-old who's been going to our schools stands in front of the family at a dinner, and the Osage have many dinners, and that young person says the opening prayer, the blessing for the meal in the Osage language. And to see that, I've seen some older people break out into tears when they see that, and chokes me up as well. So that's the proof we're on the right path. And then at that casino opening, we had our school, a class of our school children come and sing songs in Osage, and they made the event. So we did not have that 10 years ago. So it's working, but we've got to protect it, and we've got to be aggressive in supporting these initiatives. But we have to be careful not to go expect too much. We have to set our goals that are realistic and which we can meet, that benefits people, and we can assess that and measure it. And that's a lot of work. The people have to jump on board and say, this is the goal. This is where we're going to be. Don't be afraid to change if it didn't work out. We're all in this together. And let's just keep organized and keep moving, and observe respect for each person's ways of going through our lives. So that is the challenge we need every day and night. And we all do that, all people, correct?
Of course, yes, absolutely. Well, Chief Standing Bear, this has been fantastic. Thank you. Can you just say thank you to me in Osage? Because I don't think I've ever spoken Osage with anyone before.
Well, you can say the short version, you can say thanks, Waywana, but
Waywana.
Waywana. And actually, though, if be men, especially, if you want to be more formal, you say Lali Wajoa, and that means you did well.
Lali Wajoa, right. Wonderful.
You got it.
Thank you for listening. Lali Wajoa. Plenty more great content on the way, so please do rate, review, and subscribe if you can. Until then, Waywana and good night.